City Manager. Welcome, everyone. This is the Thursday, August 1st, regular meeting of the Clear Lake City Council. Madam Clerk, can you please do roll?
Councilmember Kramer,
Here.
Councilmember Slotin,
Here.
Councilmember Purdock,
Here.
Vice Mayor Overton,
Here.
and Mayor Claffey.
Here. Councilmember Kramer, can you lead us in the pledge?
Be honored. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Councilmember Purdock, could you lead us?
I'd be honored, sir. Thank you. We have some friends just to the northeast of us that are struggling with some pretty big fires up there. And if you don't mind, I'd just like to offer a prayer for them. Our Heavenly Father, we are so grateful to be here today, to be able to join and come together as friends and neighbors in the city of Clear Lake to do the good work of the city. We ask that your spirit be with us to lead us and guide us and do what we need to do for the best of all involved. Father, we ask for a special blessing on those who are struggling with smoke and fire and evacuations that we all know so well. We ask that you would bless them with peace and comfort and the firefighters who are struggling, and keep them safe until all is resolved and can be peaceful once again. We ask for this in your Son, our Savior's holy name. Amen.
Flora, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, one change. We'd like to pull item number 10 off the agenda. There's some additional information we'd hope to put together, but recommend this be brought back at a future time.
Thank you.
I'll move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Slutin, a second from Vice Mayor Overton. Please vote in your portal.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item 1, a presentation from Health and Social Policy Institute on secondhand and third-hand smoke and aerosol impacts on health and multi-unit housing. Welcome.
Hi, council.
We need to turn that on, I think. Okay.
Can you hear me now? No? Like this? Okay, it's getting a little close. So the last time I was here was October 2022. And it's been a while, and just coming back to bring some new information. Last time I was here, I talked a lot about the effects of second and third hand smoke on children, seniors, animals, disabled, anybody living in shared wall housing, multi-unit housing. Back to bring a refresher with a PowerPoint, and then I am going to give you some new information that has come about since about a year and a half ago when I was here. Are you guys still being able to hear me? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start with the PowerPoint. I'm going to turn sideways here a little bit. So that's just the title. So next slide. Thanks. These are some of the different kinds of things that people can have effects from second and third hand smoke. Chemicals that are known to cause sudden infant death, respiratory infections, ear infections, asthma attacks in infants and children, heart disease, stroke, and lung cancers in adult smokers. I say this every time I come. I'm not here to tell any adults what to do or what not to do as far as smoking or vaping. However, I am here to talk about the dangers of second and third hand smoke for anybody who is exposed to it. Okay, next slide. So did you know that any amount of second-hand smoke can be harmful? 41,000 non-smokers die from secondhand smoke each year in the US. That's people who don't smoke at all and have been exposed, and they had died because they have been exposed to it. It's dangerous for children, can cause permanent damage to growing lungs. Marijuana secondhand smoke is harmful just like cigarette smoke. Vaping produces tiny droplets of harmful chemicals, including lead, and it is not harmless water vapor as it was once believed to be when it first came out. It's oil-based. Okay, next slide. Thanks. No problem. What is third-hand smoke? So a lot of people don't know about third-hand smoke. It is a toxic residue that builds up on surfaces and furnishings when somebody smokes or vapes indoors. Children and pets are most likely to suffer from the effects of third-hand smoke. So it can be on furniture, it can be on hard surfaces. It's very hard to get rid of, and it's very toxic, and it can be absorbed through the skin and through the mouth. Thank you. Where are people exposed to second and third hand smoke the most? Sidewalks, home, and shopping centers. So the city of Clear Lake passed a comprehensive outdoor air secondhand smoke ordinance, and it's the strongest one of all of our jurisdictions. And so that was a really big step. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about people who are exposed in shared wall housing. Next slide. So children and pets are most susceptible to touching and coming in contact with things, putting things in their mouth that have smoke or aerosol residues. And these are the products that contribute to third-hand smoke: cigarettes, vapes, hookah, cigars, pipes, and cannabis. Okay, next. Okay. Just a reminder that little hands touch everything. Kids put their hands and mouths on everything, and it can be absorbed directly into from their hand into their body. Okay. Okay, so housing and disparities in secondhand smoke exposure. 32% of Californians live in multi-unit housing. So that's 11.8 million people approximately. 44 to 46% of non-smokers in multi-unit housing in California are exposed to secondhand and third-hand smoke. It can come from e-cigarette, aerosol, marijuana smoke, and exposure increased between 2016 and 18. Sorry about that. There's a disproportionate number of underrepresented groups that are affected by this. 46.8 people are lower income or under the poverty line. 21.4 had less than a high school diploma. 23.4 were uninsured, and adult smoking rate was more prevalent in multi-unit housing, 17.5%. You all probably know, but just as a reminder, Lake County has one of the highest smoking rates in California. We're close to 25. It changes at somewhere between 20 and 25, and that's based on cigarettes. That's not including vaping or cannabis use. So compared to, compared to California, it's around 11 to 13% total. So we're one of the highest smoking rates. Okay, next. Up to 65% of the air in an apartment comes from other units in the building. Smoke can enter through vents, electrical outlets, windows, and even tiny cracks in the wall. Next slide. So this is just saying share walls, not smoke. Almost 40% of non-smokers living in rental housing are exposed to secondhand smoke. And this is just an infographic that shows how it can travel. Somebody could be living on the second floor and have people that are using any kind of vaping, cigarettes, or cannabis on either side or below them. And if they're a child or somebody that's disabled or who already has health problems, they are being exposed even if they're not utilizing the products themselves. Okay, next. So this is an interesting thing. How does smoking and its definition relate to second and third hand smoke? California law defines smoking as inhaling, exhaling, burning, or carrying any lighted or heated tobacco or plant product intended for inhalation, whether it is natural or synthetic, in any manner or in any form. This includes the use of an electronic smoking device. So when we say smoke-free multi-unit housing or non-smoking in California, that includes all of those items that are there. That's the definition for the state of California. Okay, the next slide. There is a public health significance to cigarette smoking and being exposed to secondhand smoke. Lung cancers, stroke, other cancers, other diagnoses, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and heart disease. And this is showing the amount, the percentages. And it says more than 480,000 US deaths every year are from cigarette smoking, and that's not including vapes. Yet we don't have all of those figures yet. Okay, next slide. So as of April 1st, 2024, 84 California municipalities have enacted an ordinance at the city or county level that prohibits smoking in private units of rental multi-unit housing properties. There's 7 counties, as you see listed there. And there's 84 municipalities. I pulled a few out that are close to us: Windsor, Santa Rosa, Richmond, Fresno, Bonnet Park, Benicia, San Rafael, and Petaluma. The policies represent over 6 million Californians, approximately 15% of the state population. Of those municipalities at the bottom, 77 have laws that prohibit smoking in 100% of private units of both rental and owner occupied multi-unit housing properties. So this is where it gets a little interesting, because you have multi-unit housing, but you also have, in some places, they do it with condos, they do it with duplexes, fourplexes. So just depends on how they have written their ordinance. Next slide, please. Okay, so funding for Health and Social Policy Institute, which is who I work for. The program is Communities Addressing Nicotine, the CAN program. It's funded by the state of California tobacco tax in 2016, known as Prop 56. We operate under California Tobacco Prevention Program, which is a division of the California Department of Public Health. I have to say that, and it's just so that you know where the funding comes from and who we work for. As you know, I'm not allowed to lobby, but I am supposed to make sure that I educate the community, stakeholders, decision makers, any residents at multi-unit housing, managers of multi-unit housing, and anybody that might have a concern or need to know, because there is a lot of information. I've presented at a lot of places, and people tell me all the time, I didn't know anything about third-hand smoke. I didn't know about it. People don't know that vape aerosol is oil-based. And so therefore it can also, it's on surfaces and absorbable. The last page is all of the citations. So we can just show that. Those are the citations. There's a few copies of this out in the outside and some handouts for anybody else who might want them. And then I am just going to move on. You guys got a packet. So the next thing that I'm gonna point a couple of things out is for this, the third-hand smoke, a threat to children. I'm just gonna call out a couple of things that were interesting. Third-hand smoke can mix with other common indoor air pollutants to create cancer-causing compounds. People are exposed to third-hand smoke when they touch contaminated surfaces or breathe air in a room where smoking or vaping has occurred. There's no safe level of exposure to tobacco smoke. Third-hand smoke contains more than 250 chemicals. Third-hand smoke is present in homes and cars where people have smoked or vape, even if they can't smell it. In the middle, it says third-hand smoke is a danger too, and it lists children, pregnant women, people with cardiovascular problems, the elderly, and pets. A lot of people are surprised to find that pets can be affected by second and third-hand smoke. There's a higher incidence of veterinarians reporting that they're having animals come in and they've been exposed, and that's one of the reasons. And it's dogs, cats, birds, and fish, because it can settle into the water. A lot of times when I go and talk with seniors and stuff, they're very, very interested to learn that and very concerned, because their pets are, their family oftentimes. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one, which is people living in multi-unit housing deserve to be healthy and smoke-free. I'm just going to call out a few facts here. 8 out of 10 residents in multi-unit housing choose to make their home smoke-free. So 8 out of 10 are smoke-free. However, they may still be exposed to secondhand smoke in and around their home. The World Health Organization has stated that 100% smoke-free policies are the only way to entirely protect multi-unit housing residents from harmful exposure to secondhand smoke. And benefits for residents and property owners. Since most people don't smoke, there is a market demand for smoke-free housing. Some people don't want to move into a unit that has had a saturation of smoke or vape or second and third hand smoke. Reduced turnover costs. Smoking units are much more expensive to clean and tend to remain on the market longer. Lower fire risk. We know we have fire things, and we've actually had a couple of apartment fires that were caused by cigarette. One was in Lakeport. It was about, I think, 5 years ago. And they had a elevator in that building, and the elevator wouldn't work because it was on fire. So it was pretty critical. Luckily, I know that some people were exposed to inhalation. Some people were displaced from housing, but they luckily nobody passed away. I'm gonna go on to. So a lot of times people ask if we're going to try to establish multi-unit housing, smoke-free laws or an ordinance or something to that effect in a jurisdiction, how do we do it? So we're about half and half in Lake County. I mean, well, I'm going to talk about City of Clear. We have half, I talk to a bunch of different jurisdictions, but half of the complexes here are smoke-free already, and the other half aren't. If they receive any HUD funding, they have to be smoke-free. People ask, how do you make the change? How do you switch over? How do you get to a place where you get the other ones to go that way? Sometimes an ordinance is decided upon, and then there's a phasing in period of time. You have to work closely with the managers and the residents to explain it to them. Sometimes they ask for a smoking area to be determined, and that can be done, but it has to meet very strict certain amount of feet away from children's play areas, away from doorways, away from windows and such. So that can be worked on as well. And so the fourth one is entitled US, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about this. This is the US laws for 100% smoke-free multi-unit housing. This shows every jurisdiction in California that is already smoke-free. And I did refer to that on the PowerPoint, but this actually lists them out so you can see what kind of a law they have. So, and then I did put also an ordinance in. This is where the town of Windsor went ahead and updated in 2017 and added multi-unit housing to their comprehensive smoke-free policy. And I believe that yours was based off of Windsor's originally. So I just included that in there to show how they included it, and then they had a phase in. Now I'm going to move on to the other American Non-Smoker Right Foundation tips for housing providers, talking with the residents about building going smoke-free. So just wanted the council to be aware that there is a large amount of information and actual written things available for implementation. I worked for this program until June of 2025. And I'm allowed to do technical assistance, which would include going around to the actual different complexes, working with the managers, educating the residents, helping get letters out if it was decided that that was something you wanted to pursue. There is support available to make that happen. It's very specific, but there's a lot of things out there that are available to make it go really well. So I've included 2 of them. So this one was tips for housing providers talking to residents. That's got some highlights in it. And then I put a sample letter in of going smoke-free. And this is a sample letter notifying tenants of lease and rule changes. So this is one way that it can be done, where you give them plenty of notice, you explain it to them. And then I am going to now talk about something that's not in there. And that is last year, I was able to go to 2 of our complexes that do allow smoking indoors and anywhere on the grounds. And we offered a class to give information on the newer data that was out on second and third hand smoke. We did not know if anyone would want to come. We had a great turnout at both of them. We were at Cache Creek in June of 23, and then Walnut Grove Senior June of 23 as well. And we had 18 people between the two, which I think is pretty amazing, considering, they are at places that do allow smoking. And many of the people who came in were like, it kind of wandered in slowly and they're like, I don't know if I can come because I smoke or whatever. And I said, no, absolutely. I want to hear from you as well. And this is just information for you to learn and understand, because a lot of people don't get the information any other way, because things have changed so much with vaping. And there hasn't been a lot of data because it hasn't been around that long. It's been around 7 or 8 years now, but now the data is coming out and it's pretty scary. So we did a presentation, and I'm just going to read you. We asked him at the end, what was the most important thing you learned today? I'm just going to read it the exact way that they wrote it. So one person said, I forwarded secondhanddangers.org to my 25-year-old daughter. One person said, smoke comes through walls. The harmfulness of vaping and how it can affect children and also pets. The effect of secondhand smoke has on children. Marijuana dangers to pets. Vaping has reached schools. Didn't know how bad third-hand smoke vapes can be clinging to clothes. The vape toxins was new to me, as well as skin contact being a method of consumption. How harmful second and third-hand smoke can be to animals. And then one person just said third-hand smoke. They had never learned about that before. And then the last was, I didn't know that secondhand smoke came through outlets and pipelines. It's scary to learn that third-hand smoke aerosol from vapes can be on carpet, clothing, etc. And also that vapes were not regulated. So those were some of the comments that they gave. And I feel like they were interested and engaged once they learned that it was just about learning. And a few of them told me personally that they care, that some of them said, I'm a smoker and I'm not ever going to stop. But I never want my kids to, and I don't want my grandchildren to be exposed to any of these toxins and things like that. And they said that they just might choose to not smoke right in front of the kids or inside or some of those types of things. So just wanted to let you know that people are willing to take in new information. So if there was ever a time that it was needed to go and work with any of the multi-unit housing managers or complexes, that's something that can happen. I have a couple more things, but I don't want to go over time and how much time I have.
Oh, finish up.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Some of the newer information that I wasn't able to include because these are pretty new things that have come out in studies, one of which is, let's see, Queensland, Australia did a long-term study, and they call it passive smoking. We call it secondhand smoke here, but there they call it passive smoking. So the idea being that if you're a child or anybody and somebody is smoking near you and it's the burning end is coming towards you or the exhale is coming towards you, they call it passive smoking. And so they did a study, and the implications that they came out with on that was that the evidence from this review that environmental tobacco smoke and passive smoking is a risk factor for oral health conditions, both prenatally and postnatally during early childhood. It justifies all health professionals paying more attention to passive smoking when conducting pediatric patient histories. Early intervention and appropriate parental education regarding the effects of secondhand smoke on infants and children will allow for minimization of dental caries, improvement in oral health outcomes, and overall reduction in smoking associated systemic conditions for children. So even in the US, it's being talked about. We all know that smoking can affect dental hygiene, your dental care or the health of your teeth and your mouth. Now they're finding that children who are exposed in utero, like the mom doesn't even maybe smoke, but they're breathing secondhand smoke. And also with very young children, it is now they're finding that it's affecting their dental health. before they're even born or when they're babies. So that's pretty huge. The other one is, they've done a lot of tests, on when children touch things and absorb nicotine in any way, like even vape, aerosol vape that has a high nicotine concentration, then it lands and then children touch it and lick it or whatever they do, even just touching it with their hands. They're testing children's urine for a byproduct called cotinine. So if they are exposed to nicotine and it's broken down through their body in their urine, it will come out and it will be cotinine. And that's the only way that cotinine can be found, as a byproduct of nicotine breakdown. They've done this in some childcare centers, and they've done it just with people who are willing to allow their children to be tested, for people who did not smoke at all in their home, but they had found that their children had cotinine in their system because they had absorbed it somewhere else. So it's just going to show that it really does get absorbed through the skin and it does break down. The only other thing that I can think of that's sort of new, there's the dental caries, the cotinine, and just more and more information about the chemicals and the harms of vape. So I think that's it, unless people have questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the council?
Oh, thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
About your effort to try to
Yeah.
combat it.
Awesome.
All right, we'll move on to item F, public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the city council on any matter that is not on the agenda and that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. We'll be limiting public comments to 3 minutes. If you're addressing something that's on the agenda later, please save your comment until then, and we'll have a similar public comment on the specific issues. If you're on Zoom, feel free to leave a comment in the Zoom chat, and we will have that read out after the folks here in chamber. So we'll start with Mr. Robert Freeze.
Robert Freeze. I live on 10th Street. I've been having a problem with my neighbor running a generator from noon to 4 a.m. in the morning for 18 months. 18 months solid of this generator running. I've tried to get the code enforcement to do anything about it. Took them 18 months to finally do something with this generator running continuously. For 18 months, they did nothing. I also have an issue with, he has a 40-foot container right on my property line, 23 feet in front of my front door. They will not do it, code enforcement will not do anything about that. Now, they did finally red tag it and made him make the electrical connection. So, you know, he has stopped running that generator, but they did not fine him any money. All he had to do was pay a $25 permit fee. And that's it. He is, there are several other issues, and he will not do anything unless he is forced to do it. With moving this container, it's illegal to have it within the city limits. I can't get code enforcement to do anything. Going back to the generator noise, I kept calling Jan, and she finally told me that to call dispatch after 10 p.m. to report the noise curfew. Well, I did that. I did it like 6 times. Officers would drive up, shine their light in the window, and then drive off. And that was it. Concerning the generator and the abatement with other property, they have done nothing. Meanwhile, I have cancer and going through chemo, And that generator noise just reverberating in my bedroom. It's just been very stressful, not good for my immune system to get better. Code enforcement seems to do nothing about that. So I would just like that to be known. I'm in frustration with Lambert, not returning my calls, not returning emails. Container issues that is going on 2 years now. And all they do is send out fines. Well, the neighbors told me he's gonna die in that house. He's not gonna pay the fines. I'm not moving that goddamn container.
Well, thank you, sir.
Since that, he has assaulted me by hitting me with a bat. He has fired a gun. He was within 50 feet of me. I don't know if he was firing at me or shooting it up in the air. But I know it was.
Understood, sir. We can't respond, but if you could talk to one of the lieutenants here, just give them a little bit more detail and
Talked to Ryan, Lieutenant Ryan,
Mhm.
and Lambert, and just get nowhere with them. So I don't know what else to do.
right.
Besides bring it to the general city council.
Thank you for bringing that forward, sir.
So, and this has got my immune system stressing out. About,
Understood. Understood.
that noise.
Mhm.
The
Well-
neighbor behind me, they moved out.
Thank you, sir. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. We'll follow up on it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Frank Costner. Later? Okay. That is all I have for submitted public comment. Does anyone here in the chamber like to come forward and make a public comment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, any comments on Zoom?
There is a comment from Mr. Brian Hughes on the Zoom. However, it appears to be related to an agenda item.
Okay, we will hold it for that agenda item. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, I will now close public comment and move on to the consent agenda. Any council members have anything they want to pull from the consent agenda?
No, sir.
Anyone from the public? Madam Clerk, anyone on Zoom?
There's no request to pull an item.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kramer, a second from Councilmember Slutin. Please vote in your portal.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, a public hearing to consider adoption of resolution 2024-33, authorizing the conversion of Pine Street to a one-way street. Director Lebo.
Tonight, the city council is being asked to consider adopting resolution 2024 and correction -34, authorizing the conversion of Pine Street to a one-way street. The purpose of the staff report is to present information and recommendations regarding the proposed conversion of Pine Street from Austin Road to Olympic Drive in a northbound direction to a one-way street. This public hearing is scheduled to solicit feedback from council and provide transparency on the proposed changes. Currently, this area has a high traffic and has safety concerns. There have been numerous near misses with both vehicles and pedestrians. Some of the things that this conversion will help with is traffic flow. The proposed one-way conversion will improve the flow of traffic safety around Burns Valley Elementary School. Traffic will flow north beginning at Austin Road, moving towards Olympic Drive. Secondly, pedestrian and cyclist safety. This will improve pedestrian and cyclist safety, including proposed enhancements such as restriped bike lanes, striping of crosswalks for improved pedestrian crossings, signage, and improved overall safety. Lastly, parking and access. Parking will be redesigned to allow for some off-street parking for pickup and drop-off zones. Recommended, there is no fiscal impact. At this time, it would be simply striping and signage. Council is being asked to adopt resolution 2024 34, authorizing conversion of Pine Street to a one-way street.
Thank you. Councilmember Purdock.
I just wanted to confirm the item number is 2024-34, not 33.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I think the question I have is regarding the school there. Do we expect any impacts? Yeah, come on forward.
Good evening. Becky Salado. I'm the superintendent for Connecticut Unified. Impacts to the school, actually, I was here tonight to encourage you to approve this and to thank you for your support in this. This is only a positive for us. There's no negative impact at all. Several months ago, I reached out to our city manager and he immediately had Public Works and the chief of police and a few other staff members, I believe, out to look at the concerns we had for student safety around the front of Burns Valley. And this was one of the recommendations that came out. And I think it would create a much better access for us. You know, every school around the country has 10, 15 minutes of we like to kind of call it organized chaos when school begins and ends. Putting the one-way street in there would help us in an area where we don't have a lot of space. We have drop-off, pickup, and buses all in the same spot. And it creates a big safety concern for us. The one-way would really help us. Please know, I always appreciate the city's support so much. You know, my first call is always the city manager. We also recognize that as much as I like to believe we're the most important thing on your minds, I understand there's a community that you have to take into account, or the neighborhood. And we understand, you know, your decision-making on that is impacted with others. I'm just here again to encourage you to please move forward with this. It really is a student safety issue, and would help us greatly.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add a little bit. As Superintendent mentioned, this was brought to us from the school, and this is something that we can accomplish relatively easily. We like to be able to have it in place by the new school year. We also have spent a significant amount of time looking at, there's some similar issues at Pomo School. In some ways, maybe even worse, but it's a much more complicated situation to solve there. And so we're still working through that. And in fact, Blue Zones has some technical assistance, kind of funny, and they brought in some experts who have spent multiple hours at both sites during peak hours, kind of seeing how it worked. And there's probably going to be some longer term solutions that will be proposed at a different time that's going to require some additional funding and more significant improvements. But this one in particular, we think we can really help a lot by turning into a one-way, doing some striping and signage, and keep the kids safe over there. So I just wanted to kind of give you that overview.
Vice Mayor?
Well, I think this is a wonderful idea because probably, I think it was 2007, 2008, we were trying to work with the school districts to do something about both of these schools. So here it is many years later. So I'm excited that this, at least this is the first step of us taking care of and making these roads safe. It's horrible there. And I am always worried when school starts and ends that somebody's going to get hurt. And, you know, I don't want to see one life lost because we can't get this right. It's been too many years. This, I definitely believe, needs to start happening. And it's the first step for here. And I hope we are working on Pomo because that's a total nightmare too. So thank you for bringing it back.
Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, I also agree that this is definitely needed on Pine Street. I haven't looked at Pomo yet, but imagine it has problems too, the few times I've driven by it. So I'm in support of it. I do have a question with regard to the resolution language. You have resolution of the city council of the city of Clear Lake designating certain streets one way and authorizing placement of traffic control devices, then parentheses Pine Street. Are there other streets that are involved in this? Are you doing this, structuring that language for that some reason? Okay, so it is just Pine Street, even though it says certain streets. Okay,
Follow up. So maybe the way I interpret that is you do have those other tributaries that are coming onto Pine Street. So I'm assuming you'd have directional signals that would show it as a one-way and which way traffic is to merge in and travel. With that.
is that what you're getting?
Councilman Kramer's question. All right, thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, I'll open up to the public. Please come forward, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, good evening. Margaret Garcia, City of Clear Lake. I am really glad to hear about what you're planning. The school and the kids must, their safety is important, and there's a lot of traffic that goes by there. Now, I'm just wondering why you don't at least have a map of what your intention is and what direction and where the traffic that usually might go the other direction might be rerouting. So my concern again is the streets that surround this area, which are Ewell Avenue between Olympic and Austin. I guess it's Austin between Ewell and Pine. That little where the buses come in, how is it going to affect the other traffic that is rerouted and goes now a different way because they don't want to go by the school, which I brought up at a recent meeting, but I'm curious about that. Do you think I could get some info?
Right now, the only segment affected is Pine Street from Austin to Olympic,
I understand.
right in front of the school. And so your concern is the traffic flow that used to go one way down Pine, that's likely going to be rerouted around the Haverty Field.
And all of the area that is still full of potholes and horrible is where all these cars are going to be rerouting, and right down again, Ewell Avenue, which gets so much traffic. And so I'm curious, has that been thought of? And what's your idea there? Or what do you see happening?
Director, do you believe there's going to be a significant impact on traffic flow in the surrounding roads?
Well, all of the roads from, I think, Olive all the way to Redwood are going to be paved, so that all of those roads will be a lot smoother, as well as Austin and Ewell Avenue is on our 8-year Measure V plan as well. Yes.
Okay, but my concern is this one way, okay, that's going on Pine by the school. Obviously, people that can no longer go the other way are going which direction? And it's just going to be more and more traffic and deterioration of the roads around the park. But
Okay.
I'm all for the school
Yep.
safety.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any traffic data on that road for who travels down it, or the amount of road traffic that travels down it? And then do you assume it will impact other roads significantly?
It will impact them, but I wouldn't say significantly. There's a few roads that they can take to go around there. It's gonna be a learning for everybody that's in the surrounding area.
All right, thank you, Director. And we'll monitor it. If it seems to be a larger problem, we'll make adjustments.
Okay, all right, well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else here in the public would like to make a comment? Yep, please come forward.
Stephanie Hummel. I just was wondering, like, I'm not really sure how all this works, so my question is, like, does anybody get told this in the city before it happens, like what she was saying, more or less as well, like? That's all.
So this is the first step. This is a public hearing. If we go through the process and this is approved, City Manager, can you remind us of the notification procedure?
Well, this is a public hearing, so our legal requirements are to do a publication in the newspaper of general circulation and then have this notice at the city council hearing. I don't believe that there's any other notice required.
Notices were also sent to the surrounding neighbors and then a 100-foot buffer.
No, thank you for asking. Any other comments here in the chamber? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, any comments on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom. However, Supervisor Sabatier has requested to make comment.
I believe right now the only way to comment through Zoom is through X
Correct.
chat. Supervisor Sabatier, get your butt here in person. I'm going to bring it back to council. For Vice Mayor Overton.
So, is it okay if I ask Becky a question?
Oh, of course.
Okay, Becky, I have a question for you. Yes. So, is there a way, you guys have the robocall thing, right? So are you guys going to send out a robocall through all that? I'm going to assume that way all of the people before school will know that this happens. And okay, I thought you would, but I just thought I'd make that public. So.
Happy to work out. I'll work with city manager when you have released something to us. We'll make sure it gets out to all of our parents as well as on our Facebook pages.
I knew you were on it, but I figured I'd let people know that there's other ways to make sure that everybody knows things. So thank you.
Thank you.
We haven't talked about this, but the city could send out a nixle or two before the first, before school starts about the change too.
Next week.
Seeing no other comments from council, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll take the motion, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I'd like to move that we approve resolution number 24-34, not 33. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Clear Lake designating certain streets one-way and authorizing placement of traffic control devices, specifically Pine Street.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kramer, a second from Vice Mayor Overton. Please vote in your portal.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item 9, a discussion of water-related issues in the city. City Manager Flora.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. So, we mentioned before that it's our intention to have a number of discussions about various water-related issues in the city, and we had a plan to have a few different experts here, but scheduling hasn't worked, and so this is a topic of interest. So I thought there's just a few things I could provide some brief updates to the council on that have been happening around water issues, and then if there's anything specific you want to ask questions about or whatever, we could get into that as well. So first thing I want to do is give an update on Golden State Water's rate case. As you're aware, that was filed, and the city council made a decision this time. It's something that generally happens every 3 years, to actually become a party to the proceeding. And so our city attorney has been involved in the actual meetings with other parties about that. So there's a lot going on there, of course, thousands of pages of different filings and a lot to keep up on, but generally, I think where this is headed, it seems like everyone has agreed, so there were basically two things proposed by Golden State related to the Clear Lake service area. One, their preferred option was for rate making purposes to combine the Clear Lake customers' rates with the service area in Arden, Cordova, and Sacramento. And the purpose of that is to combine our kind of smaller number of customers here with a larger customer base. Essentially, that customer base absorbs the capital expenditures that are proposed by Golden State to be invested in our system, and that allows them not to raise the rates on Clear Lake's customers. Essentially, the customers in Arden Cordova will be paying for the improvements in Clear Lake system. Pretty good deal for us. If that wasn't approved by the Public Utilities Commission, then it would result in another set of very significant increases over the next 3 years. It sounds like the direction this is going is option one is what is kind of been agreed on. So now, you know, the caveat there is the existing rates in Golden State service area are in many cases 3 times higher than some other areas of the city. So also very high. It's not going to lower them, but if this whole case is approved this way, it would freeze the customer's rates in Clear Lake for the next 3 years. And then they would come back with another proceeding as they do every 3 years, and we'll see what happens at that point. So, you know, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, one thing, there's also negotiation back and forth on what is proposed as far as capital improvements in the Clear Lake service area. We haven't had copies of that information, like their actual master plan for improvements here. The numbers of what's allowed is also something that's negotiated through the rate setting process. I'm not sure if we have yet, but we'll be requesting that information so that as a party of the proceeding, we can take a look at that and see what's actually being proposed in the system here. So there was a public comment period that was in sort of the end of June, early July. Unfortunately, I mean, so this was not just for Clear Lake, but for the whole case. There were, you know, not a lot of participants with that. We did put out a little bit of information that it was happening, but the comments, the summary I got on the comments that virtually all the comments involved the very high rates already, the very large proposed increases to rates generally, some poor water quality issues, and then this isn't my words, I'm just repeating what was summarized for me, and unconscionably high salaries for corporate officers and very high returns for stockholders. And of course, as you know, that's one of the negatives of private water companies is there's that guaranteed return and the obligation to stockholders to bring back a return, which is one of the reasons why rates are often higher. And then of course, you know, no incentive to rely on, you know, state and federal grant funds for capital improvements. It's just, they borrow the money and get a return on that. And it ends up being passed on to the ratepayers. So at this point, there isn't a lot of clarity on when something will be approved. There's been a real flurry of filings back and forth in the last week or 10 days. It looks like it may be into January, most likely, before something is actually put into place. But at this point, you know, the most important thing that I think the city wanted to see as far as this service area is that we did get combined with Arden Cordova for rate making purposes to freeze the rates for the customers here in the city. So maybe I can pause there and see if you have any questions about that.
Any questions from council? I know we did this 3 years ago, but I think it would be good to refresh how Golden State's rates compare to the rest of California. And then with this proposed rate increase, if the consolidation doesn't come through, it should, I would imagine it's going to be one of, if not the highest rates in California. So I want to make sure that we have a clear line of sight on what that's going to be and how it compares. So we can talk about that,
Sure,
but
yeah.
let's bring it forward to another council meeting. All right, continue.
Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is we've had some conversations with, well, I'll back up. I think, so, you know, we have Councilmember Slutin and Councilmember Kramer have been appointed to water ad hoc. So some combination of the three of us have attended a lot of Canocti County Water Board meetings and Highlands Water Board meetings. And, I think you're all aware that, we had submitted some sort of rough proposals to each of those districts about, a consolidation with the city as a city utility. And so there's been, basically no back and forth with Highlands, instructed not to talk about that with their board. But there has been some discussion with Canocti County Water District Board, and we had asked that they appoint an ad hoc committee similar to what the city has to kind of, meet and talk in a little bit more detail. And to this point, they haven't been willing to do that, but we have had a few conversations with the board. So the main thing I wanted to update you on is there was the idea brought up of is it possible to do a joint powers authority between the city and Canocti County Water District, and what would that look like? And so I guess it was earlier in July, we agreed to have a special meeting of the Canocti board. So Councilmember Kramer, Councilmember Slutin, and myself went. And then in some other conversations I had, I invited Sean White, who's the Director of Water and Sewer for the city of Ukiah. And there's been water conflict in the Ukiah Valley for a very long time. There's been a lot of small failing systems there, and there's been interest in the city to consolidate most of those, which had been met with a lot of hostility over the years. But more recently, there's been some movement in that regard. And so they actually have recently adopted this joint powers authority between the city and two of the water districts in the area. And so Mr. White came over and kind of gave a summary of what they saw as the benefits, how this all came together. Really informative, great discussion and presentation from him. I've actually invited him to come and speak to the city council about this as well, and he has agreed to do that. We just haven't been able to nail down a date, so we can get into the details of that a little bit more when he comes. But great insight into how that opens the doors for a lot of additional funding from the state for improvement. So we talked about this, I think, a little bit when Mr. Roscoe was here, but there's various, they call it the SAFER program is the primary pot of funding for this type of stuff. So they focus on systems that are failing or at risk of failing in disadvantaged or severely disadvantaged communities, but which none of the water districts here are currently failing or at risk of failing. Highlands has been in that category before, but is not currently. It's classified as potentially at risk, which is the next tier below that. One thing that's important to understand is proposals in severely disadvantaged areas that are focusing on that will consolidate systems do bump you back up into priority status under this program. So just kind of throwing that out there at this point. I think there seemed to be a little bit of interest in asking a lot of questions and whatnot from the Canocti County Water Board. There hasn't been any follow-up since then on that. I'm not sure that there's any real interest in discussing this in detail, but we continue talking to them and going to their meetings, and would love to sit down and talk in a little bit more detail about that. But that's kind of the update I have around that situation.
Thank you for the update, Mr. Flora. Any questions here from the council? Vice Mayor?
So let's say the joint power thing. So what does that, that would enable us to get grants for the water systems and stuff then, because we have that?
Yeah. So, I don't want to act like I'm the expert on this agreement, but in my discussions with Mr. White and reading the agreement, so the water board, this, it has to be clear to everyone and from the water board's perspective that this has to be a path to consolidation, right? And so this is a way to take that step and open the potential for them to get money for that. And the way that their situation over there works is there will be a transition where all of the employees of the other water districts will become city employees. The boards still stay in place. And then they appoint members to the JPA board. And you guys are familiar with that because we are, part of a number of them already. And like the big decisions on what to fund, where to apply for funding, the two members on the JPA board from each of the entities would get direction from the full board on that. But it is intended under this model that there will be a point when it's all consolidated under the city. And that's because the water, I mean, that's the main purpose of the Water Board Safer program is to have fewer systems. There's, 7,500 water systems in California. So.
Wait, and Lake County had a ton of those too, and they've consolidated.
Right. Yep.
Slowly, everybody's kind of consolidating together. So did you kind of say how long this process has been going on for them?
Well, I mean, the more recent where there actually was interest in putting this together, I think, if either of the council,
Like 3 or
I
4
think
years.
2 to 3 years maybe, to get to this point. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thanks for the update. I think the water companies are starting to realize that it is in all our interest to make sure that this becomes a viable water district to help the city.
Well, I mean, just a couple other probably more brief ones, but I wanted to give an update to the full council and, there's been some misinformation out there as well. So, I mean, you're aware that the city did file a lawsuit against Highlands Water Company asking for primarily two things. One, records that should be available to shareholders that they've refused to provide to us up to this point. And the contesting the validity of the board of directors election at the shareholders meeting in April. And so the hearing on that was last Friday. The judge said that he hadn't had time to fully review the briefing materials, and so he wasn't ready to receive oral arguments at this point. And so that was rescheduled to August 13th. So the hearing will happen on that there. And then, so essentially what that's asking for is just a new election where all the shareholders in the company consistent with the bylaws have the opportunity to participate in that election. And so, and then also, release the documents like shareholder list and that type of thing that have not been provided to us. And then there was also a lawsuit filed against the city by Highlands Water Company alleging a Brown Act violation at that meeting because there were 3 council members at the meeting. But that doesn't constitute a Brown Act violation. And 2 of the council members are also private shareholders in the company. So fortunately, we shared our views on how, this one isn't going to go anywhere. It hasn't been filed yet to our understanding, but we were notified last week by their attorney that they will be dismissing that lawsuit with prejudice. So looking forward to seeing that get filed. And then, one of the things that makes it so complicated because of the 3 different organizational types of the water systems. Mr. Roscoe did a great job of explaining that before, so I won't get into that, but the state water board is the entity that's ultimately responsible for making sure that the water districts are in compliance with drinking water regulations. And so they do periodic inspections of the systems. And up until recently, all of them had, they're supposed to have inspections. I forget what it is, maybe every 3 to 5 years. The last one that they all had until recently was 2017, I believe, is when the inspection reports were filed. Highlands recently was inspected. And so we received a copy of that inspection report and, are reviewing that, but just wanted to share that with the council as well. So.
All right, great. Thank you, City Manager. Any other questions from council here? Appreciate it, City Manager. We will now open it up to public comment. We'll start with Mr. Frank Costner.
Good evening, council members. So I'm here to talk about the news article that was in the Lake County News. It's an online article. It was in, I believe, the July 24th. I hope you're all familiar with that article. So in that article, there was a quote, and the quote is, this is from Flora. He said the city is moving forward with its plans to consolidate the water district. The good old boys club isn't too excited about this, said Flora. And so I consider that a derogatory statement. It is unnecessary. It does not help foster a good relationship with the district. And it also hinders the proposed JPA what the city wants to form with Conocta County Water District. That comment takes my 35 years of experience in community service and turns it into a negative. Conocta County Water District does not do background shady deals like a good old boy would. I'm new to these type of local politics, and so I do not want to say negative things about the city management. I just want to point out the city has issues that they should be focusing on before trying to take over the water districts. Some of the things that I believe that the city should be focusing on is the raw water quality that we're all dealing with. The lake smells so bad. I'm sure it's hard to have tourists come, bass fishermen come, and people come to enjoy the lake when the raw water quality is so bad. One of the things the city could do to help treat the raw water is work on their stormwater management plan and also erosion control. A lot of the reasons why the lake is so bad is because, when we have stormwater and the storms wash nutrients into the lake, causes the algae to grow. And over the past 10 years, I've noticed a significant increase in the algae and the smell and the buildup of algae along the shoreline, especially in Clear Lake. We're at the southern end of the county. The prevailing wind blows all the algae into our shoreline. It builds up and then it starts decaying. It smells. It creates ammonia when it decomposes. It also is high in cyanobacteria. So we would like to make sure that the city council understands that Conocta County Water District has gotten over $17 million in grant funds over the past 3 years. That's $10,000 per connection that we've saved our customers. So we feel like we've been doing a really good job. SAFER program is a great program. Currently, the SAFER program has $11 billion in needed funds, and they only have $2 billion in available funds. So, as you know, the state is really hurting financially, and so those funds come and go, and it's really hard to get the funds. But I just want to point out also that Conocta County Water District has been very successful in getting grant funds, and we're very proud of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Costner. Any other comments here in the chamber? Yes, please come forward. one at a time.
Hi, Margaret Garcia, City of Clear Lake. Um, I've been to several meetings where this has been discussed, and the last one got cut short at 10 p.m. And I really wasn't able to comment completely. And actually, my notes are in the car, which I don't really want to go out and miss something said here. But I have a few questions. The first is, I'm unsure why this is to our advantage, maybe the city of Clear Lake or the customers of Highlands Water. I'm not sure where all this came from, how this all started, and are we going to see Highlands Water rates go up? And I know that Canocti has done, I mean, they had like $10 million in grant that they collected. We had zero. So I'm not sure where the advantage is to the residents of Clear Lake, the customers, particularly of Highland Water, and why is all of you getting involved in this? I'd love to see that, like he was saying about the water quality and the muck that always ends up down here, which it's here again. You know, something maybe done in that regard. I'm not sure what the advantage is for you guys to be in this whole water deal. And I'd like to know how it impacts me and other members of City of Clear Lake.
Well, there's a couple of things. We have a website that has a summary of where this started and what the motivation is. Water quality at the lake, that's controlled by the county. We have been looking into potential options that we as a city can do. But you know, the lake is controlled by the county, so we have limited ability there to get grants and get other things to help. And then the benefit of, you know, we talked a little bit about it with Golden State, how their small system has some of the highest rates in California, and they're looking to expand their system to expand the burden on residents. Right now, we have 3 systems in a city that could barely support 1. So we're looking at all the issues very closely.
Golden State is super high. I just see that as, okay, my rates are going to go up if they're all consolidated. So that's my concern. And maybe there could be more. I see this, you're saying on the website, but how about just like on paper explanation, what's going on and why?
Yeah, well, look at the website. We also had Mr. Roscoe here a few meetings ago who gave him. Yep. Okay, thank you. Any other comments here in the chamber? Please come forward, one at a time.
I did get that flyer that was describing why the rate increased. I think there were 6 issues why they wanted to raise it 30%. And the reasons, I think one was property taxes, federal taxes. The 6 reasons were, to me, didn't justify a 30% raise in increase in rates. I pay over $100 a month right now. I mean, the rates are pretty expensive. They're also wanting to consolidate their offices, which means they can get rid of some employees when they consolidate them. So their costs for that is lower. And I wish I would have commented on it. So.
Well, thank you. Yep, we have the same concerns, and that's why we're a party to that action as well. Next person.
David, City of Clear Lake. I'm curious, Alan, as far as Sean White with the 2 facilities you said that are looking at consolidating with.
She needs the director questions.
Direct questions.
Directed there, and yeah.
Laura, if you could give.
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't I know Mr. White did share that information with us, but I think I mean, I think they're probably smaller than either three districts here in the city, but around 1,000. I don't know. I shouldn't say because I don't
So
remember.
something worth asking when he comes to speak with us. Frank's shaking his head no, so I assume no. Thank you. Yes, come forward one at a time, please.
Sarah Miller. I was at that meeting and I do recall that they were very small water companies, but they were also both failing. And it was a joint effort and they agreed to do it. No one was forced. No one was bullied.
Thank you. Any other comments here in the chamber? Yes, please come forward.
Jeff Stanley, I'm the Vice President of Knox County Water Board. And I have a lot of tension to like to air things right now about what's really going on. You run, not
Yeah, you got to talk into the microphone.
You can hold it.
a water district that is at cost, no profit.
They can't hear you in the back, sir.
It's on.
We run our water, we make our water at cost. We don't incur a profit of any kind. Legally, we're not allowed to call ourselves a nonprofit organization if somebody doesn't like it. But we have the cheapest water rates for 2 cents a gallon versus, let's say, Golden State gets 6 cents. I'm sorry, 6 cents a cubic foot versus our 2 cents a cubic foot. We have all new machinery. We've applied for grants. We got, to everybody's amazement, we got all of them. We have a brand new shiny plant, and you guys want to take it away from us. We've earned it. You can't improve on what's perfect. You're going to denigrate it. You're going to make it expensive for people that can't afford it. There's some very bitter customers around here. I don't know what circle you guys run in, but most of the avenues, they're very much against anything coming from the government.
Can I just clarify? So Canocti is a special district of the county, correct?
It's a special district, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and we run it like a private company, basically. We produce it at cost, no profit gain there. There's no point in trying to apply for more grants. Everything we want, we've got right now pretty much. We've tied in with the other water districts to supply them if they have need or vice versa. There's been mention on the fire hydrants are out of date, but they were up to code when they were installed, and they can't be forced to renew those. But we have installed a lot of fire hydrants. I think 30 or something just recently. We're trying to replace all of them as we can afford it. We're trying to come up to speed with the latest and the greatest. We've been accused of a lot of things. We've been sent on fool's errands. They say, oh, you need to run a main line out to the old airport because they're going to put a Marriott's hotel there. Has anybody seen an official document from Marriott's? I don't believe it exists. Any feasibility study would shoot it down one. There's no attraction here for that. There's no convention halls, no amusement parks. It's not economically feasible. I've yet to see some yet. We've been beat up with that on a regular ongoing, basis. Sorry, it's a little hard. I got a weak heart. Standing and talking and spending all this hot air.
Well, just to be clear, sir, we do have agreements at the airport site.
You do with Marriott's?
And with the dentist as well.
Is there, can I see something? Like I'm thinking that, why would they put it there?
There is a.
To bring in.
Well, I mean, that your opinion is, I understand your opinion, but we have.
Convention centers, there's no amusement parks.
Understood, but this is.
Stinks. Water contact type place, the fish is, contaminated with mercury, arsenic and PFAS.
Okay, sir.
I'd love to see
Point
something
taken.
like that, and you may make a believer out of me that was a real statement, you know.
Well, you asked this and we told you that there is something in the works.
I would love to see that.
So, well, that's fine. At some point you will see it, but there is something. Now, are you accusing us of lying?
I almost wrote that the president of the Marriott to ask if they had any real intention, you know? I just dismissed it. It couldn't have been possible. You say so? Okay, I'd love to see that.
All right, sir. You're at 10. Thank you.
That's off.
You're at about 5 minutes, sir.
Just get started.
There'll be more.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
There was a question about the number of customers, just according to the State Water Board's website, the two systems we're talking about in Ukiah, Millview serves a population of 5,500 and Redwood Valley serves a population of 5,200.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. All right, any other comments here in the chamber? You've already spoken on this issue, ma'am. I'm sorry. Any other comments? All right, Madam Clerk, I know we have one comment on Zoom. Please read through those.
Yes, there is a comment on Zoom, Mr. Mayor. This comes from Brian Hughes, who states, "Hello, my name is Brian Hughes. I am attorney for Highlands Water District. Highlands sent out an informational sheet to unconnected lot owners within Highlands boundaries concerning the potential outcomes of the current lawsuit between the city of Clear Lake and Highlands. In response, a member of the public sent the following email to the city manager, Mr. Flora. I own 2 homes in Clear Lake and 1 vacant lot. I am currently serviced by the 2 water companies providing water services in Clear Lake. I am not in favor of the city taking over the water distribution and ownership. I respectfully request the city of Clear Lake withdraw your current lawsuit." The city manager, in his capacity representing the city, responded to this member of the public, stating, among other things, the following statement. The letter is at best misleading and at worst deceptive. I do not know if they sent this based on incompetence or intentional deception, end quote. The city has a right to its opinion on how Highlands runs its business. However, please refrain from proposing that Highlands and Highlands staff is potentially incompetent. A high official in the city stating that Highlands is potentially incompetent or stating that anyone or any company is incompetent crosses a line. I respectfully request that the city no longer state that Highlands is potentially incompetent. Thank you. And that ends his statement.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Any other comments on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no further comments on the Zoom.
Thank you. We'll now bring it back to council. City Manager Flora, I know I would like to work with you on just looking at the rates for Golden State, both now and then proposed. Any other direction for Mr. Flora prior to next meeting? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all. All right, moving on to item 11. Discussion regarding events at city facilities. And I will take the lead on this one. As you know, recently, our local farmers market was having some issues with having a sustainable operation at our area park, or at Austin Park here. City Manager Flora and I had a conversation with the leadership of that organization the other day. And through that, we went through and we looked at some of the other regional rates that the county and the city of Lakeport charges for farmers markets. So, Mr. Flora, if you could share that slideshow. I just wanted to start by saying, right now the city does charge a $90 per week fee. All of our, and this is city council already knows this, but this is for other folks who might not be unaware. All of our city fees are based on an estimate of how long it takes to complete the necessary internal tasks associated with an action, whether it's an event permit, a building permit, a use permit, et cetera. All of these activities take time for the city to review and approve, and we align a dollar value on that is fair for the applicant. It's the city council, not staff, that sets fee guidance for the city. Additional fees may include electrical use, water use, road closures, public works cleanups, et cetera. And this is more my opinion, but the way we set fees is a fair model, and strict adherence by staff is both financially responsible, ensures that the resources to conduct proper due diligence is there. So we've had a lot of feedback saying, you guys, why are you charging the farmer's market a fee? Well, this is why. This is how you do want your city staff to operate, because it's fair for all and it covers the expenses incurred. If you can go to the next slide, Mr. Flora. We did, however, look at some of the other farmers markets here in Lake County, and there is a bit of a disparity. So the Middletown Farmers Market is run on Friday at Middletown Square Park. Right now, they are not charged a fee to operate. And when I say not a fee, this is for the organization operators, not the vendors at the market. All those vendors are typically charged, and that helps fund a sustainable farmers market. Lake County Farmers Finest Saturday at Mercantile, they are not charged a fee. That's on private property. I believe the feedback was Mercantile likes the foot traffic, and so they host it there. The Lakeport Farmers Market, they are charged a fee. They've been charged a $15 one-time fee, which I think there is an indication that they might raise that in the near future. But again, that's just a one-time fee for the season. And right now, the city of Clear Lake charges $90 a week based on our current rate policy around events. We had a chance to look at some other areas. So San Francisco, which I mentioned in the last meeting, they recently slashed all their fees for their farmers markets and night festivals, et cetera. Counter to that, Sonoma has recently increased their fees because there's an organization that hosts that, the city hosts it. And at the moment, they're losing, I think, $54,000 a year just hosting it. So there is a financial burden to running this, but there's also a lot of net positives for the community. So I just wanted to bring this forward. If you can go to the next slide, Mr. Flora. Bring this forward, one, looking at how other farmers markets are handled here in the county, taking a look at the San Francisco proposal, and then I have a suggested proposal, but I'd be open to talking more about this. So based on the San Francisco proposal, an event fee waiver suggestion, any event could take advantage of this proposed fee waiver if they are free and open to the public. This isn't for private events. This should be something that everyone in the community can access. Occupy a public space, a public park or space that does not require road closures. Takes place between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. and the applicant must be a Lake County-based nonprofit, small business, community benefit district, business improvement district, or a neighborhood or merchant association. So this waiver would just be for local entities bringing quality events to our community. Some additional notes that I would suggest is the applicant must post a deposit. There are the potential for damages. There are the potential for services that are needed for cleanup. I think a deposit approach is a fair way to do this. The fee waiver should not include additional services such as electrical, water, police, public works, or other staffing requirements. And the city staff has the discretion in approving, rejecting, or modify event permits based on existing criteria. So that would be my suggestion. Understanding that I want a farmer's market here. I think it's a great resource for the community. I understand it's tough in this economic environment to do it in our town, especially if you're just starting up. Hopefully with a few years of traction, it will start booming and we can have a different conversation. But I also don't want to have a policy that only targets the farmer's market. This is a lot broader. I don't want to show bias to one organization when I think there could be benefit to multiple organizations. So I'll take a breath. Vice Mayor Overton.
Okay, well, doesn't our city manager already have the right to waive fees? Is that, I mean,
Well, you have to be, I do for nonprofit, and the group that's been running this is not a registered nonprofit.
okay, so, okay, I get it. So would this be something that we could just, so how did we do that when we give you permission to waive the fees? It wasn't an ordinance, we just,
Well, yeah, it's in the fee resolution.
so could we just would add this to that resolution or?
Well, yeah, if you want to change it, I mean, the conversation that the mayor and I had was, well, I think there's a couple wrinkles to it. One, we had invited the organizers to come tonight and talk and share their opinions, but it doesn't look like that they were able to make it. They did, there's been a lot of a lot of stuff out there on social media, as I understand. I'm trying to avoid it, but it keeps getting sent to me by various people. So that they were looking at going outside of the city. After our conversation, they said they really did want to be in Austin Park. They would like to keep it here. But they to get it going and it's not really a year-round thing for the most part, that they would need to be able to move forward as soon as possible. So what you really need to do, if you accepted the mayor's proposal, we would need to come back and adjust the fee resolution. But I think you could give me direction if you wanted to work with them under this framework on a sort of temporary basis until that could happen.
Would,
Hoping that we could move forward without having to come back and do it all. So,
Councilmember Kramer.
would, well, as you say, this group are not a nonprofit respectively. So are you thinking about making an exception for them, or how are you going to handle that?
So the way San Francisco outlined it, it was a nonprofit, small business, community benefit district, business improvement district, basically any local organization.
Is she a,
She would be a local small business. She would fall into that category.
okay, that's a category then. Okay.
I mean, you have to get a business license to do this regardless. So I think if they had an
That would-
active business license, we would consider it to qualify.
I'll concur, maybe we can have this temporarily in place until, this is just, like you said, a temporary thing. This is not going to be held in the middle of the winter, so.
well, he's saying giving permission to go ahead and go
Yeah.
forward with this if we agree with this here. Well, it gives him time to get this into the resolution and bring back to us. He can still go ahead and work with the farmer's market.
Mr. Pucci, you look like you're about to say something.
Well, my preference would be that even temporary direction to the city manager have some defined parameters around it. And I think the way that we would do that is to bring back not an emergency resolution, but some sort of resolution at the next council meeting or the earliest opportunity, providing some of those bumpers so that it doesn't put staff in a weird spot in terms of not knowing what that authority is and what it's not. And rather than have the council delineate those on a verbal basis, it just makes sense to me. Not that you probably could not do that. That would just be my perspective.
Thank you. Councilmember Purdock.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think what you put together is very detailed, and I'd like to see this go forward. But on another note, I just wanted to, I know why we're doing this. I know why we charge fees, because it does have a fiscal impact on the city. But honestly, in today's economy, and I'm looking at what's happening statewide, we're taxed when we earn the money. We're taxed every time we sell or buy something. We're taxed. People are just leaving by the droves. And sometimes it's just overwhelming. And I think we need to offer, whenever we can, some relief in that tax and fees, especially in a community like ours that is socially, economically challenged. So yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? All right, I'll open up to the public. Any comments here in the chamber? Yes, come forward, please.
Margaret Garcia, City of Clear Lake. I'm just curious, are you talking about the farmer's market here in Clear Lake that happens like once a week?
So I believe it happens Saturdays and Tuesdays.
Is in there.
Yes, so the one that happens here at Austin Park.
See, I'm a big farmer's market participant, but.
We'll
I
convert
like
you.
that it
We'll
exists.
convert you.
So you're talking $90 a week to each vendor or to the person who organized?
The organizer. So we have an event permit fee. If you want to have an event at Austin Park, it's $90, which, you know, for normal events, that's not high compared to the surrounding counties. With the farmers market or other organizations like that, that can add up.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just was not clear on that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that the Middletown Farmers Market does not charge the vendors any
Oh,
fees
no.
any longer. I think.
Really?
That's what was in the presentation, ma'am. You're right.
Oh, that wasn't in the
They charge
presentation.
The vendors.
Yeah.
They charge
Oh, I
the
thought it
vendors.
was-
The county doesn't charge the host. I don't know if the host charges the vendors. That's
Okay.
separate from us.
All right, well, as far as comparison, then why are you comparing City of Clear Lake to like San Francisco and Sonoma Farmers?
Well,
Markets?
so I compared it to San Francisco because I was looking for an alternative, and San Francisco proposed an alternative in their community. And then I looked at Sonoma to get the opposite side of the spectrum to understand what costs are for a highly successful farmers market for a city. So just giving points of comparison.
I'm just, all right, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Any other comments here in the chamber? Madam Clerk, any comments on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
I'll bring it back to council and City Manager Flora. Do you feel like you have clear direction?
Well, I think if we can refer to this, if the council's okay with this, I mean, the one thing is like, what is the deposit amount? I mean, we already charge a deposit amount. I think it's $500. If you're willing to keep that, you know, I mean, I think I'm not the attorney here, so Mr. Pucci can jump in and correct me, but I mean, I feel comfortable if the council's okay with this, working with this proposal, for and like giving clarity to the farmers market organizers through the end of this calendar year under this situation, and then we can come back and update the fee ordinance. Now, I haven't worked through the city attorney with this, but you know, if you're raising fees, you have to do a public hearing, various noticing and all that. I don't think we'd be raising these fees, so we probably could do it just kind of as a regular business item, but I have to vet that with him. I mean, I didn't talk about this with the mayor. One thing I might offer is that there be like Lakeport, even though the amount's quite a bit different at this point, but there still be a one-time fee for a new, like a reoccurring event, but still covering the staff cost for reviewing the permit application and sending that around, but not that it be, so it's like, you know, you come in for the year or whatever, and you pay the $90 and then you do the deposit, and that's all you have to take care of. But something for you to consider.
Right? So the $90
Yeah.
would be,
So Lakeport charges a $15 one-time fee. I would be in support of that as well. And then go the deposit base for the rest of the season.
Whatever you feel the cost is.
Well, I mean, we set it at $90, but I think it was really intended to be for a special event, and not,
Right.
you know,
Not something that's reoccurring.
that's what it says, but you know, it did, I don't think it really envisioned the reoccurring situation. So this would make
Still
sense.
$15, $25 for them to file and to be looked at.
Well, I was talking about our current amount is $90, which is based on the review process. I mean, you know, we could look at Lakeport, and, you know, the city manager there is telling me that, yeah, our fees are really low. We're going to have to raise them a lot. And I'm like, okay, well,
thinking-
now we're going to be
But-
lowering them closer to yours. So.
but you're talking about $90 is a one-time fee as opposed
Right.
to
At what,
every week.
$90 a
That-
year?
That seems reasonable.
Well, I mean, we could do a year, or I mean, if they're not, you know, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that carrying through if it
But
is
just-
multiple years, as long as the event doesn't change that requires, you know, a re-review by staff. But
I like that.
I think that seems reasonable.
I think from my perspective, we're talking about two separate issues here. Certainly, I'm not a fan from a legal perspective of fee modifications without a fee modification resolution, but direction to staff and authority to develop a fee waiver program is a whole different scenario. That's very easy to do. So I think that I can work with the city manager. My comfort level would be if we are going to modify fees and the city manager has direction as to what that modification looks like, then we can just develop a resolution and we'll modify those fees and he can develop a fee waiver program consistent with your comments here tonight. So.
Sounds
good.
What he says.
Good to be.
All right, thank you all for your participation, and we'll move on to item 12, consideration of designation of voting delegates and alternates for the League of California Cities Annual Conference in October. Director Swanson.
I'm up.
Swanson.
Oh.
Honorable Mayor and council members, tonight, the city council is being asked to designate a voting delegate and up to 2 alternates for the Cal Cities Conference in October. It's scheduled for October 16th through the 18th in Long Beach. And at this meeting, as happens every year, the league membership considers and takes action on resolutions that establish the league policy. In order to vote on those resolutions, the city council must designate a voting delegate and then up to 2 alternates. At this time, we don't have information on any issues that are coming up for vote in October. However, it is appropriate at this time to appoint the delegates. And it's at this time, Council Member Kramer, Council Member Purdock, no. Vice Mayor Overton. Yes, I'm just stating who's planning to go in October. I believe that there are the 3 Vice Mayor Overton, Council Members Purdock and Kramer are planning to go to the league in October.
So we need 1 and 2 alternates.
Up to 2, correct.
There's the 1.
All right, I'll bring it back to council. Any questions, comments?
I'd like to propose Vice Mayor Overton as a representative and 2 of us are alternate.
Before you do that, since there's no questions, any comments from the public? Yes, please come forward.
I'm sure you would.
Strike that from the record, please.
City Council, next time you can go.
Madam Clerk, any comments on Zoom?
There are no comments on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll bring it back.
I believe Councilmember Kramer made his. Yeah, I don't know his coloring, but.
Yeah. I'll second that if that's.
All right. And we
Need a second on that.
Director Swanson, are you clear on that? All right. We have a motion from Councilmember Kramer, a second from Councilmember Slutin. Please vote in your portal.
Motion passes with unanimous vote of the council.
Thank you. All right, city manager report.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things. We're in the process of updating our website a bit, so be looking for everything to look new and be hopefully improved probably by the end of September. The city is finished its review and will be a Blue Zone certified workplace soon. So we'll be sending out information for the ribbon cutting and all the stuff on that pretty soon. So look for that. Council or Vice Mayor Overton may mention this, but I'm sure all of you remember Julie Burrows, who was a longtime city employee. And there's been some delays, but Vice Mayor Overton's organizing a sort of dinner remembrance for her this next Wednesday at 5:30 at the youth center. Is that correct? Wanted to provide an update. We had a site visit with representative, the Tribal Sword Preservation Officer for the Elam Indian Colony on the Burns Valley project for our federal funding consultation this week, and was a great little site visit with him and Public Works Director and project manager and staff, and we'll be getting their written comments, but just pleased to continue to have a great working relationship with that tribe, and they're supportive of the approach the city has taken and with the way we have designed and presented the project. A few project start dates. There's a couple of signage things that were approved by the council. Wayfinding signs will be starting next week. The digital marquee signs at the 3 locations, we don't have a date yet, pending manufacturing of those. Then there's the 3 large road projects. Clear Lake Park will be starting on August 12th. South Ballpark will be starting next week, August 5th. And then the Tree Streets project will be starting August 12th. I think that's been held up slightly because Golden State has a number of upgrades to their infrastructure that they're trying to get done. But it's taking a little while, but right around the corner, we'll be having the smell of asphalt all over town. So that'll be great. And then just wanted to remind the community, the election filing date, August 9th, coming up for city council. And then there's obviously various other seats, including Canocti School District, Canocti County Water District, and so forth. So if you're interested in pulling papers for city council, you need to contact the city clerk. And then I think all the other offices, the contact goes through the county registrar of voters. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Councilmember Kramer.
Yes, just saying, as City Manager Flora had mentioned earlier, I've attended several water district, water company board meetings, both with and without him, and with Councilmember Slotin. Had a meeting with Caltrans through my APC affiliation. They asked to their safety program, people asked to have a workshop with me, or a meeting anyway, because I've been complaining about the safety or lack of safety on Highway 53 toward pedestrian traffic. It was going to be a Zoom type thing, and I asked City Manager Flora to join in on that. He's been working with, we found out there's the state has compartmentalized their different programs, and one didn't really know what the other was doing. But at any rate, having City Manager Flora there, we were able to, I think, make several points emphasizing the overpass between 18th and Dam Road was our preference to an underpass that they wanted to do between 40th and Lakeshore, or 40th and 18th rather, which really kind of didn't go anywhere. It would have not served nearly as many people as what we're trying to do. Anyhow, it got them to thinking, and they're going to look at that alternative rather than it. And they also have, which I think is good, proposed lighting all the way from Dam Road to past Lakeshore on the highway for those folks that do climb the fences still and try to cross in the dark. Because I think that's been a big part of the problem. And with pedestrian fatalities and being hitting, is that you just simply can't see them after dark when they do come out and cross the fence where they shouldn't be, or walk along the highway where they shouldn't be. So I thought we made progress on that. I don't know what City Manager Flora agrees with that or not, but that felt good to me anyway. We have outside, you'll see the grandstands, or the stage is being prepared for Shakespeare at the Lake, which we'll be presenting tomorrow night and Saturday night, 7 p.m. each night. Presentation of The Tempest, the punk version. Tempest that Shakespeare wrote was written in the 1700s and based on things that happened in the 1700s. They're modernizing it, but it sounded like it's from hearing that, what it's like and listening to what happened in Lakeport, it sounds like it was going to be a really interesting play. I would encourage you to come out. It's free. It starts at 7 p.m. tomorrow night and 7 p.m. on Saturday night. And then last, but certainly not least, in regard to the council election specifically, I've arranged for a candidate forum on September 16th. We've reserved this room. I've talked with Elizabeth Larson, who will moderate it. And I've talked with Thomas about videoing it. TV. 7 p.m. on September 16th for all candidates are invited. That I guess turn in their papers by whenever they're due. So again, September 16th. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Slutin.
Like Councilman Kramer said, we attended a couple of meetings with the Water District, and the only thing I have actually not much more to report. I was trying to cool off on the coast. But I did give both the Highlands Water and Conocta Water the information I had on fire hydrants, and they are supposedly updating that information to have to see if the information I have is correct. So hopefully we'll get that soon.
Councilmember Purdock.
Sir, I haven't attended a meeting this go around and I have nothing to report.
Vice Mayor Overton.
I'm glad that we're the blue zone. I wish I could have my celebration at the community center saying that we are. So when we do open up, we're going to do a hoorah for ours too. We have actually been a blue zone for about a year and a half, but just haven't been able to do our celebrations. So I think that's a really good thing that we're all coming into this wonderful health thing. That's great. So as you said, Julie's celebration of life, we're kind of calling it. They are having, they're going to, she wanted to be buried here. So they're going to do it down in Lower Lake at 10:30. If anybody would like to join, they are saying that, you're more than welcome to come and join the family. And then we'll have a little dinner get together at 5:30 at the youth center. So I know it's something that people wanted to kind of had all asked, and like if we were going to do something, it just took time because her family were all kind of far away. So we were just trying to get it all coordinated. So please, everybody come. It's, the family would appreciate us sharing her life with them because they were kind of far apart. So they really didn't know our life. I think it would be a good opportunity for them to show how much we did appreciate what she did for our city. So and then I went to a COAD meeting, which is regarding our Reliance heating and cooling centers and the things that, how we can all work together. And there's a lot of different groups that are in that. So we pretty much spent the, like 5-6 hours there collaborating, trying to figure out how we can all help each other when in need. So it's kind of good to have those contacts and know who's doing what. I wanted to put out there that we're anticipating our opening date for the community center to not be till like October. So people keep calling me and asking, and hopefully we'll be having those installed this next month. We're praying for that. But, there's just a lot that goes on even after they're installed. So, I just kind of wanted to put it out there because I've been getting a lot of calls lately. And so I just figured it's probably just time to say, I don't anticipate that we won't be back in there until October. So get it out there. I will be gone for probably our next meeting. I'm going to a Meals and Wheels convention back east. So while I'm back there, I'm going to take a few extra days and spend some time with my family. So I will not be here at the next meeting. So let you guys know if you're going to do anything bad, do it then. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I got to last weekend be a judge for the One Team, One Dream small business competition. And it's one of the greatest organizations we have in Lake County. The entrepreneurial spirit here in Lake County is incredible. And specifically here in Clear Lake, there were some amazing businesses that came up and went under some tough scrutiny and prevailed. I don't know if the results have been released yet, but expect Clear Lake businesses to be represented in a couple of weeks, couple of months when they do the final competition. So please, Ms. Garcia, go to the farmer's market. Everyone else, support our small businesses. They're the lifeblood of this community, and we thank you all. With that, any future agenda items? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
We have closed session.